They're shocked because while they're still bleeding emotionally, you've already cauterized the wound and moved on. They expected you to be stuck in the same pain cycle, replaying memories, questioning yourself, breaking quietly. Instead, you detached so cleanly it feels unreal to them. Your calm looks unnatural to people who are still drowning. They don't understand that detachment isn't denial, it's mastery. You didn't escape the pain, you finished processing it. And now their suffering feels lonely without you sharing it. They're hurting because they're still living in the aftermath, while you've already stepped into the aftermath's aftermath. They wake up with questions, regrets, and emotional noise. You wake up with clarity and direction. That contrast messes with their head. They thought pain would keep you emotionally tied to them. They didn't realize pain could also be the thing that finally cuts the cord. Watching you move on while they're stuck feels like betrayal to them, even though it's just growth. They're shocked because your detachment isn't loud or performative. You didn't announce healing. You didn't dramatize the exit. You simply stopped reacting. And nothing scares hurting people more than someone who no longer reacts to what once controlled them. Your silence feels like rejection on a level they weren't prepared for. Not emotional rejection, existential rejection. Like they no longer exist in your internal world at all. They're still hurting because they keep revisiting moments, replaying conversations, wondering what they could have done differently. You already did that part long ago. Quietly, privately, completely. By the time you detached, the emotional work was finished. To them it looks sudden, to you it was overdue. That time gap is what shocks them. They're grieving now what you already mourned while still standing beside them. They're shocked because you didn't detach halfway. You didn't stay emotionally available while pretending to move on. You didn't linger in mixed signals. You cut clean, and clean cuts heal faster than jagged ones. They're still bleeding because they keep reopening the wound. You closed yours and walked away. That difference makes them feel abandoned, even though they helped create the conditions for your exit. They're hurting because they assumed you'd miss them the way they miss you, but missing someone doesn't look the same when self-respect is involved. You don't miss chaos. You don't miss being misunderstood. You don't miss shrinking. Your detachment isn't cold, it's selective. And realizing they no longer qualify for access to your emotions breaks something in them. They're shocked because detachment was the one thing they never saw coming. They expected anger, tears, even revenge. Detachment never crossed their mind. They didn't know that once someone detaches deeply, there's no emotional leverage left, no guilt, no nostalgia strong enough to pull them back. Your peace feels unfair to people who are still negotiating with their pain. They're still hurting because they're waiting for you to crack, to miss them publicly, to reach out privately, to prove you cared the way you used to. But you're not cracking, you're stabilizing. And that stability makes them feel disposable. Not because you intended it, but because detachment removes emotional hierarchy. You didn't replace them. You replaced the need for them. They're shocked because your detachment didn't turn you bitter. It turned you lighter, clearer, more focused. That outcome confuses them. They expected damage. Instead, they got distance and growth. They're hurting because they stayed attached to the version of you that no longer exists. You didn't just detach from them, you detached from who you used to be with them. They're still hurting because they thought healing would take longer for you. They thought time would level the field. But healing isn't about time, it's about decisions. You chose to stop bleeding. You chose to stop hoping. You chose to detach fully. And now, while they're still asking why, you're already living the answer. They're still hurting because they stayed emotionally parked at the moment things ended, while you treated the ending like a turning point, not a destination. You didn't sit in the wreckage asking why it happened. You salvaged what was left of yourself and moved forward. That difference in response makes them feel abandoned by time itself. They're shocked because you didn't need mutual healing. They assumed you'd stay connected through pain, bonded by damage. Instead, you healed independently, and independence broke the illusion that suffering was shared. They're hurting because your detachment exposes their attachment. When one person lets go completely, the other is forced to feel everything alone. And loneliness hits harder when you expected company and pain. They're shocked because you didn't seek validation for your healing. You didn't need them to acknowledge your pain for it to stop hurting. You validated yourself, and that removed their relevance entirely. They're still hurting because they keep checking your emotional temperature, hoping to find warmth, nostalgia, or cracks. What they find instead is neutrality. And neutrality is colder than anger. They're shocked because you didn't weaponize the past. You didn't bring receipts. You didn't rehash wounds. You simply stopped carrying them. That restraint unsettles people who expected emotional warfare. They're hurting because detachment changed the power dynamic overnight. Pain used to be mutual ground. Now pain belongs only to them, and that imbalance feels cruel even though it's natural. They're shocked because your detachment didn't come with bitterness. Bitterness would have kept you tied. Instead, you released resentment and took your energy back. They're still hurting because they believed your heart was permanently accessible. Detachment taught them access is conditional, and conditions were violated. They're shocked because you didn't detach gradually for them to adjust. You detached fully because partial detachment only prolongs damage. They're hurting because they can't accuse you of wrongdoing. You didn't cheat, lie, or retaliate. You simply chose yourself. And that's a loss they can't argue against. They're shocked because your life didn't stall after detaching, it expanded. That expansion feels like betrayal to someone still shrinking in pain. They're still hurting because they expected to matter longer in your healing process. They didn't expect to be excluded entirely. They're shocked because your detachment wasn't cold-hearted, it was clean-hearted. You removed what hurt without contaminating what remained. They're hurting because they keep revisiting the emotional bond while you've already dismantled it internally. Bonds don't survive when only one person keeps feeding them. They're shocked because detachment didn't make you lonely. It made you peaceful. That outcome rewrites everything they believed about loss. They're still hurting because they hoped your healing would circle back to them. Healing doesn't circle back, it moves forward. They're shocked because your detachment didn't erase empathy, it redirected it inward. You stopped pouring empathy into places that drained you. They're hurting because your calm feels like dismissal. But it's not dismissal, it's resolution. They're shocked because while they're still asking how you moved on so fast, you're no longer thinking about how to explain it. And that's the final fracture. They're still hurting inside the story. While you've already closed the book, learned the lesson, and walked away without needing them to understand. They're shocked because your detachment didn't come from hatred, it came from completion. You didn't leave with unfinished emotions dragging behind you. You left after understanding everything so clearly that nothing was left to debate. That kind of exit feels brutal to people who are still confused, still bargaining, still emotionally bleeding. They're still hurting because they expected your pain to mirror theirs. They assumed suffering would keep you tethered. Instead, you processed the pain fully and refused to live inside it. Watching you stand steady while they're still collapsing makes them feel like they lost more than a relationship, they lost emotional equality. They're shocked because you didn't detach out of impulse. You detached with discipline. Every day you chose distance over comfort, silence over explanation, peace over familiarity. That level of self-control feels threatening to people who still depend on emotional chaos to feel connected. They're still hurting because your detachment erased their influence. They can't provoke you, can't guilt you, can't pull reactions out of you anymore. And losing influence feels worse than losing affection. It tells them they no longer matter in the way they once did. They're shocked because your detachment didn't make you bitter. It made you grounded, stronger, clearer. That transformation messes with them because it proves the pain didn't destroy you, it refined you. They're still hurting because they stayed emotionally loyal to a version of you that no longer exists. You didn't just detach from them, you detached from who you were when you tolerated less than you deserved. They're shocked because while they're still trying to survive the ending, you already turned it into a beginning. And that truth hurts more than any argument ever could, because it means you didn't lose them, you outgrew them. Their betrayal didn't just hurt you, it reshaped you. It took the innocent softness in your soul and reforged it into something sharper, colder, indestructible. They thought the pain would break you, weaken you, maybe even silence you. But instead, it transformed you into something they never anticipated. Someone who no longer fears losing anything, because they already took the worst from you. What terrifies them now is not who you were, but who you became afterward. They remember the gentle version of you, the one who forgave easily, who loved without hesitation, who believed in people even when they gave you every reason not to. They remember the kindness they stabbed, and they see the consequences in your eyes now, a dangerous calm, a terrifying composure. It scares them that you stop pleading, questioning, or demanding explanations. They expected anger. They expected chaos. They expected you to fall apart, but you didn't. You stood up, wiped the blood off your trust, and walked forward without looking back. That silence, that control, that's what turned you dangerous in their eyes. There's something chilling about someone who has been betrayed and still chooses to rise. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, with that eerie strength that comes from understanding exactly what people are capable of and refusing to be naive ever again. Your danger is rooted in clarity. They never imagined you would evolve into someone who sees through manipulation instantly, someone who reads intentions before words even leave a mouth, someone who doesn't romanticize red flags anymore. They're scared because the person they betrayed can no longer be fooled. Their betrayal taught you emotional distance, a skill they never expected you to learn. You no longer give unearned loyalty. You no longer chase validation. You no longer offer access to your heart freely. They feel the doors closing, the walls rising, and the warmth they used to exploit turning into ice. The version of you they betrayed depended on them. The version standing before them now depends on no one. That independence shakes them, because for the first time, they realize you don't need them or anyone to feel whole. You became dangerous the moment you stopped explaining your worth, when you stopped trying to convince people to treat you right, when you stopped fighting for places where your presence was seen as optional. You outgrew the cage they built for you, and they panicked when they saw the bars bending. Their betrayal became your awakening. The kind of awakening that comes with a new level of self-awareness, a new level of self-respect, and a new level of self-control. They didn't just lose your trust, they lost access to the most vulnerable parts of you. They tremble at the fact that you no longer react emotionally to their presence. You don't argue, you don't cry, you don't justify, you observe. And that ability to stay unaffected is more frightening than anger could ever be. Because dangerous people aren't the loud ones. They're the ones who have seen the worst, survived it, and now move with a quiet confidence born from pain. That's you. Calm, calculated, controlled. They can't predict you anymore. They realize too late that the betrayal they used to break you actually built you. It toughened your skin, strengthened your boundaries, sharpened your intuition. The very storm they created became the force that made you unstoppable. You're dangerous now because you know exactly who deserves a seat in your life and who doesn't. You no longer hand out second chances like candy. You no longer entertain people who drain you. You cut ties cleanly and walk away without regrets. Your danger lies in your ability to detach, to walk away from what once mattered without hesitation, to choose peace over chaos, to value yourself more than the history you had with anyone. Betrayal taught you the art of letting go, and that scares them. They can't manipulate someone who has mastered control over their own emotions. They can't guilt-trip someone who doesn't fear losing people. They can't intimidate someone who's already been through the worst and survived. Their power died the moment you realized yours. What frightens them most is the way you look at them now. Not with hatred, but with indifference. Hate still shows you care. Indifference shows you don't. And that emotional distance is more threatening than any revenge they imagined. You became dangerous because you learned how to protect your peace, how to guard your energy, how to reserve your kindness for those who deserve it. You're selective now, not wounded. Strong, not broken. A warrior, not a victim. Their betrayal made you wiser in ways that comfort would have never taught you. You became someone who listens to actions, not words. Someone who chooses solitude over fake company. Someone who doesn't rush love, friendship, or trust anymore. You're dangerous because you survived what should have destroyed you. And survival always leaves a mark that glows with resilience, not revenge. A mark they can see every time they look at you and realize they no longer have access to the person they once underestimated. They're scared because they watched you rebuild yourself from the ground up, brick by brick, wound by wound, truth by truth. And your rebuilt version is stronger than anything they ever imagined. They're scared because you learned how to fight battles they never thought you'd win. Battles inside yourself. Battles with your own doubts. Battles with the lies they fed you. That kind of growth is intimidating. They're scared because you didn't become cruel like them, you became controlled. You didn't become heartless, you became careful. You didn't become bitter, you became selective. That balance between darkness and discipline is lethal. What makes you dangerous is that you don't seek revenge. You don't need it. Your success is your statement, your peace is your power, your evolution is your retaliation. And nothing haunts a betrayer more than seeing the person they hurt rise without them. Their betrayal didn't break you, it released you. It allowed you to shed the version of yourself that tolerated disrespect. It forced you to become the person you were always meant to be, sharper, wiser, colder, and infinitely harder to deceive. And that's what scares them the most, that their betrayal didn't ruin you. It unleashed you. They're shaken by the way you learn to analyze people with precision now. Before, you trusted first and questioned later, but betrayal taught you to observe quietly, to study patterns instead of promises. You became someone who sees the truth before it's spoken. That level of awareness makes you untouchable, and that terrifies them more than any anger ever could. They hate that you learned how to be alone without feeling lonely. That you rebuilt your world without needing their presence, their voice, their validation. Independence is the one language betrayers never expect their victims to speak fluently, but you mastered it. Now they see you walking alone, growing alone, shining alone, and it burns them every time. What scares them is how deeply you transformed, not on the outside, but internally, where it matters. Your mind is sharper. Your spirit is heavier. Your sense of self is fortified like steel. They can't access you emotionally anymore because you outgrew the weakness they depended on. You became someone they can't manipulate, can't confuse, can't destabilize. Your silence is a weapon now. Not a passive one, a powerful one. They used to rely on your need to explain yourself, to save the connection, to keep the peace. But now you say nothing. You let people reveal who they are without interference. And that stillness, that refusal to engage, is what makes you dangerous. It leaves them powerless. They're terrified by your lack of reaction. Because a person who doesn't respond is a person who has already healed past you. They wanted chaos. They wanted breakdowns. They wanted you to spiral. But instead, you leveled up. You didn't crumble, you evolved. And evolution is always the greatest revenge. Now, when they look at you, they don't see the old you they thought they could toy with. They see someone who survived emotional warfare and learned how to build armor out of lessons. You became someone who knows their worth with frightening certainty, and people who know their worth can never be controlled. That realization taunts them. They fear your growth, because it exposes their stagnation. While they remain the same, childish, manipulative, unhealed, you accelerated past them. It's not your darkness that scares them. It's your elevation, your refusal to stay small, your decision to rise instead of rot. Your glow embarrasses them. What truly disturbs them is that you didn't need closure, apologies, or explanations. You walked away without looking back, without asking for anything, without giving them a chance to rewrite the narrative. Betrayers hate when the person they wounded writes their own ending, especially when it's a powerful one. They're haunted by the memory of the person you used to be: soft, trusting, vulnerable. But that version of you is gone forever. What stands in its place is someone who learned how to protect themselves, someone who embraces both light and darkness with balance, someone who refuses to shrink for anyone ever again. They always thought you'd give them a sign, didn't they? A warning, a trembling goodbye, a final plea for them to get their act together. Ah, how cute, how predictable. They built their ego around the idea that you'd never leave without creating a scene, but you did the one thing they never prepared for. You vanished. No fireworks, no fight, no closure, just silence. And oh, how that silence haunts them now. You see, people like them can endure your tears, your anger, your explanations. What they can't endure is the quiet. The quiet forces them to think, to replay, to rewind, to ask themselves, what exactly did I do? And suddenly they realize it wasn't one moment. It was every moment. Every disrespect they brushed off. Every lie they told themselves you'd swallow. Every mistake they assumed you'd forgive. You left so cleanly that your absence became a mirror, and now they're staring at a version of themselves they can't escape. A version they can't blame on you. A version they can't sugarcoat. They don't remember losing you in one grand explosion. No. They remember losing you in 1,000 little cuts they delivered with a smile. And now the fun part begins, because the mind, dear friend, is a cruel archivist. It never forgets what the heart tries to bury. Now they're sitting alone at 2 a.m., replaying conversations they thought you forgot, replaying moments where you flinched, moments where you fell silent, moments where your eyes dimmed, moments they shrugged off. Now those moments are loud enough to keep them awake, loud enough to choke them. Isn't it funny? They didn't care when you were there, but now that you're gone, you're everywhere. In their memories, in their guilt, in the corners of their insecurities. They can't escape you, not because you're haunting them, but because they're haunting themselves. They didn't realize you were leaving, because you didn't slam the door. You simply stopped opening it. You didn't make threats. You didn't create ultimatums. You just stopped showing up. And now they understand the elegance of that move, the sophistication of that silence, the power of a goodbye that wasn't spoken, but felt. They thought losing you would feel like losing an argument. Instead, it feels like losing oxygen. And the best part? They can't even tell anyone the truth. They can't admit their mistakes, their selfishness, their carelessness, because doing that would mean stating aloud what they already know in private. They ruined something they never deserved in the first place. They replay the way you stopped laughing at their jokes. They replay the moment you pulled your energy back. They replay the shift in your eyes, that tiny, barely noticeable flicker that said, "I'm done." They replay the moment you looked at them like you saw everything and decided they weren't worth fighting for. But the real torture, oh, the real exquisite torture, is knowing you didn't leave for someone else. You left for yourself. That's what ruins them. That's what poisons their pride. That's what keeps them stuck in an endless loop of mistakes they can't undo. Because you didn't walk out to replace them. You walked out to reclaim yourself. And now, while you breathe freely, they choke on the memories. They replay every moment they could have done better. every apology they never said, every kindness they withheld, every time they took you for granted. You left without warning, and now they live with the consequence. You didn't need revenge. You didn't need chaos. You didn't need to hurt them. They're hurting themselves, one memory at a time. You know what really drives them mad? It's not that you left. It's that you didn't give them a final performance. No tears, no speeches, no dramatic exit, just absence. And nothing unsettles the guilty more than an empty stage, because now they're forced, absolutely forced to replay every scene of your time together, and suddenly they're realizing they weren't the hero they told themselves they were. No. They were the villain wrapped in cheap charm, hoping you'd never notice the cracks in their mask. But you did, quietly, slowly, completely. And your silence now? Oh, it's driving them insane. Because silence is the one sound you cannot argue with. Silence leaves them alone with their thoughts, and their thoughts are not kind. They remember the way you softened for them and how they exploited it. They remember the moments you reached out and how they shrugged you off. They remember the times you stayed loyal while they entertained distractions. They remember your heart and how they played with it like a toy that would always fix itself. But it didn't, did it? It cracked. Then it closed. Then it disappeared. Now they sit there, rewinding the tape of your history together like a lunatic searching for clues. Where did I lose them? What did I do wrong? Everything. That's the part they hate the most. They didn't lose you in a single blow. They lost you in every moment they dismissed you. Every second they underestimated you. Every day they thought you'd stay, no matter how little they gave. And now, every time their mind quiets, it hits them like a punchline from a cruel joke. You didn't leave because you were weak. You left because you finally saw your own worth. They don't fear your presence anymore. They fear your absence. It echoes. It exposes. It condemns. Now they hear your silence everywhere. In the conversations you're no longer part of. In the routines you no longer orbit. In the peace you reclaimed and refused to return. You left without warning, and now they're stuck replaying a movie where they were never the protagonist, just the mistake. And the ending? Oh, the ending is the sweetest part, because now they understand something they can never unlearn. You were the best thing they mishandled, and the worst loss they can never reverse. They can't fix it. They can't reach you. They can't apologize their way out of consequences. All they can do is rewind, and rewind, and rewind, while you're finally living a life where their shadow doesn't touch a single corner. You know what the funniest part is? They still think you leaving was the tragedy. No. The real tragedy is that they finally understand the story. After the main character walked out of the script, you didn't shout. You didn't cry. You didn't demand closure from people who never deserved a voice in your ending. You just stood up and vanished from their narrative. And now they replay every second like detectives at a crime scene. Was it that day? That argument? That moment? Oh, they're spiraling. And spiraling minds? They make the best entertainment. Because now they see it. The disrespect, the lies, the laziness, the unkept promises, all the little cuts they thought you'd never feel. They never realized you were counting, quietly, carefully, coldly. You turned every wound into data, every insult into evidence, every disappointment into strategy. And when the scales tipped, when the final straw didn't break you but enlightened you, you walked, no speech, no apology, no grand finale, just the door closing, soft, clean final. And now look at them, hunted by their own memory, haunted by a ghost that's still alive. They hear your silence like a scream they can't turn off. They see your absence every time they open their phone. They feel the consequences every time they lie down at night. Because now they're replaying everything they did to lose you. Every mistake, every betrayal, every moment they thought you wouldn't leave. The irony? They treated you like you were replaceable and ended up losing the one person they'll never find again. See, that's the punchline. The joke they never caught until it was too late. You weren't their option. You were their blessing. And they threw it away like trash. And now you're gone. Not blocked, forgotten. Not distant, untouchable. Not angry free. They don't get access to your future. They don't get to shape your growth. They don't get to rewrite the story. Their role expired the moment they underestimated you. Their relevance ended the moment they pushed too far. Their control died the moment you stopped caring. And that's what burns them the most. Not that you left, but that you left without leaving a piece of yourself behind. You walked away whole, stronger, sharper, colder. And they're stuck with the memories, the guilt, the realization, the never-ending loop of their own stupidity. You left without warning. Now they replay every mistake because it's all they have left of you. They loved the angel version of you, the one who forgave too quickly, loved too deeply, and overlooked too much. They adored that softness because it made you predictable, controllable, pliable. They counted on your goodness to keep you quiet, to keep you loyal, to keep you from ever waking up to what they were doing behind your back. They didn't realize angels only stay where they feel safe. They kept pushing, testing, poking, convinced your kindness had no breaking point. They chipped at your wings like it was a game, mocking your purity, your loyalty, your compassion. Every betrayal was a little cut they assumed wouldn't matter. Every disrespect was a joke they thought you'd just laugh off. They believed angels don't bleed. They believed wrong. When the angel cracked, they didn't even notice. They were too busy enjoying the comfort of your patience, too busy assuming you'd never change. They didn't see the quiet shift happening inside you, the slow extraction of innocence replaced by understanding, by realism, by coldness. And by the time they realized it, the transformation was already irreversible. You didn't become a demon out of desire. You became one out of necessity. You learned that purity doesn't protect you from people who enjoy breaking what's pure. You learned that kindness is a language not everyone deserves to hear. You learned that sometimes you have to grow fangs to survive the hands that claim to love you. And now they fear you not because you're harmful, but because you're no longer harmless. They see the way you speak now, the way you move, the way you carry yourself. They feel the absence of the softness they used to exploit. They feel the chill of the boundaries they never thought you'd enforce. You became someone who doesn't beg for explanations, doesn't cling for validation, doesn't dance for attention, and the loss of their control terrifies them more than anything. They wanted an angel they could handle, not a force they couldn't predict. They whisper, "You've changed," as though it wasn't their hands that sculpted the new version of you, as though the demon they now fear didn't grow from the wounds they inflicted. They forget that you were gentle until gentleness became your downfall. The demon they fear isn't cruel. It's selective. It chooses silence over chaos, distance over desperation, self-respect over self-sacrifice. It isn't vengeful. It's aware. It isn't angry, it's done. And that scares them more than rage ever could. Rage means you still care. Silence means you don't. They don't fear your darkness, they fear the consequences of losing your light. Because without your light, their shadows become visible. Their lies, their jealousy, their manipulations, all exposed in the absence of the angel who once softened their image. You were their comfort zone, their emotional safety net, their guaranteed forgiveness. They relied on your purity to balance their toxicity. Now they face the world without your softness shielding them. And that is a punishment they never saw coming. They try to paint you as the bad one now, because accepting responsibility would require them to admit what they did. It's easier to demonize you than to admit they broke the best thing that ever happened to them. It's easier to act scared of you than to confess what they did to the angel you once were. When you stopped giving chances, they called you cold. When you stopped tolerating disrespect, they called you aggressive. When you walked away, they called you heartless. But you were none of those things. You were simply finished. And they can't stand the idea that the monster they see is just the mirror of their own actions. Now they tread lightly around you, choosing words carefully, avoiding the entitlement they once spoke with. Funny how people grow polite when they can no longer predict your reaction. Funny how they learn respect only when fear enters the room. But the fear isn't of you, it's of accountability. It's of the truth catching up. It's of the realization that they pushed a good soul into a place where softness no longer survives. They created the very energy that now intimidates them. And the most poetic part? You didn't become colder to punish them. You became colder to protect yourself. Their fear is just a side effect. They want the old you back, but they'll never admit it. The one who cared too deeply, loved too openly, trusted too quickly. But that version died the moment they decided your kindness was a weakness. The angel they broke isn't coming back just because they regret it now. You learn to live without them in a way they never expected. You learn to stand alone with a strength they never believed you possessed. And every time they try to approach you now, they're reminded of the irreversible truth. They had the angel, and they destroyed it. So now they face the demon, not a monster but a survivor, not cruel but untouchable, not dark but awakened. And the fear they feel is nothing compared to the peace you finally found. Because the real twist is this: the demon they fear is simply the angel they taught how to stop caring. They never expected you to rise from the ruins they left behind. They assumed breaking you would keep you small, quiet, dependent. But pain has a habit of teaching lessons strength never could. What they shattered inside you didn't stay shattered, it reconstructed itself into something sharper, wiser, untouchable. And that new construction is what terrifies them now. Because now you see through everything, the excuses, the manipulation, the faux innocence they hide behind. You see their intentions before they finish their sentences. You sense their patterns before they even realize they're repeating them. You've developed a radar only the broken ever earn. And there's nothing scarier to them than someone who can no longer be deceived. Your silence has become its own kind of weapon, not because you use it against them, but because they no longer know what it means. Before, silence meant you were hurt. Now, silence means you're done. It's a silence that doesn't wait, doesn't chase, doesn't explain. And that silence is a language they never learned how to handle. They used to love the version of you who explained your feelings, justified your boundaries, apologized for your reactions, but that person is gone. Now you carry yourself like someone who refuses to be understood by people who never tried to understand you in the first place. And that shift hits them harder than any revenge ever could. They thought breaking you would satisfy their ego, but now they're left with a version of you they can't access, can't manipulate, can't decode. They used to see you as emotional clay they could mold to their liking. Now they're dealing with stone, and no matter how much they try, they can't sculpt remorse into something they broke. Sometimes they try to return with kindness, as if kindness can erase the memory of who they were when you needed them most. They test your reaction, hoping maybe, just maybe, you're soft again. But you greet their attempts with a neutrality that sends chills through them. Not anger, not bitterness, just distance. And that is far more frightening. They look at you now and feel something unfamiliar: accountability. It creeps into their conscience like a shadow they can't avoid, because facing you means facing the version of themselves that caused your transformation. And people rarely fear you, they fear the reflection of themselves they see in your eyes. You don't need to punish them. Their guilt does that better than you ever could. Every time they remember who you used to be, they realize what they lost. Every time they see how strong you are now, they realize what they wasted. You became the consequence they never calculated for. Your detachment is the poetic justice they earned. You don't hate them. Hate would require emotional investment. You simply don't carry them anymore. And they're slowly learning that being forgotten by someone who once loved you deeply hurts more than being hated. Your absence echoes louder than your presence ever did. When you were gentle, they didn't listen. Now that you're gone, they replay every moment trying to understand where they went wrong. The answer is simple. They mistook an angel's patience for permanence. And the irony? The demon they fear isn't violent, loud, or chaotic. It's calm, collected, self-assured. It's the kind of darkness that doesn't scream, it observes. It's the kind of strength born from survival, not destruction. It's the kind of energy people fear because they know they can't control it. What they fear most isn't your darkness, but your clarity. The clarity that let you walk away without shaking. The clarity that let you rebuild without bitterness. The clarity that made you realize that losing them wasn't a loss, it was liberation. And nothing rattles a guilty conscience more than seeing you flourish without them. Now they stand there, wanting access to a version of you that no longer exists. They search for the softness they once dismissed. They search for the warmth they once took for granted. But the angel they ruined is gone, and the being standing in front of them now is someone they don't know how to handle. You didn't become a demon. You became immune. Immune to manipulation, immune to emotional games, immune to people who mistake kindness for weakness. And immunity is far more terrifying to those who once fed off your softness. They taught you how to stop caring, and now they pay the price for the lesson they forced upon you.